Dan Perry here with another C++ tutorial for Dan on Tech. In this video we'll be looking at the switch statement. The switch statement is an additional decision statement. In the past we have looked at the if statement, and with the if statement we asked a question, and we had two branches. We had a true and a false branch. And depending on whether the action was true or false, we would execute one of those branches, and then those branches would meet, and we would continue our sequence. Well, we found that if we had more than two possibilities, that we could use things like nested ifs or the if-else statement to get around it. Well, sometimes we need to pick from a number of fixed choices of a variable. And so we have a structure called the switch structure, where we ask a question and then we can have as many branches as we need based on some value of a variable, say an A, a B, and so on. You can also have a default branch, so that if nothing else matches, you can have it do something by default, and then those branches all come back together at the end. If I can get, we'll all come back together at the end and continue the instructions. Well, we've got some new keywords here. The first of the new keywords we have is the word switch. The second is case. And a lot of times you will see the switch statement referred to as the case statement. I find myself doing that as well. When I first learned this back, I guess, probably back in Pascal, we called it a case statement, even though it used both the word switch and case. There's also another keyword we'll look at, break, and a fourth one, default. So those are the four keywords we're going to be using when we work with this structure. So let's go in and let's open up our C++, and I've got a shell here, and I've created a single character variable, ch. The switch statement, we match exactly. There's no greater thans or less thans. There's exact matches. It works very well with integers, with characters, and with string values. It does not work well with floating point numbers due to rounding of floating point numbers. Well, the switch statement starts with the switch command followed by one or more case commands, and I'm going to save myself a little time maybe and copy and paste the first part of that. And so I've got switch, and then I'll open and close, or then I've got in parentheses my variable. In this case my variable is that ch variable that I created. So we're going to choose which of these branches to do based on the value of ch. Then within curly brackets we have our different possibilities, our different values for ch. Each of those is called a case. And so it's the keyword case, then the value of the variable. So this is, we're testing the variable ch against a to see if it matches a. And then you would have one or more commands that would be what you want to do in the case this switch was true. Sometimes you will see those in curly brackets. I have a tendency to put them in curly brackets only because that's the way I learned it originally. They don't actually have to be inside of a curly bracket structure. Then whatever we want to do with that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just simply see out the capital A. So if it's a small lowercase a, I'm going to output a capital A. Then I do, if that's all I need to do in this case, and I could have loops and any other commands I want, I end the case with a break. So the new command break, and the break says to break out of the switch structure. We'll find later we can use the break command to break out of looping structures as well, but here it breaks us out of the switch structure. Well, if we have another value we want to do, we basically repeat that process with the next case. So it's case, and then the value we want to test for, in this case B, then a colon. It's a colon, not a semicolon. And then what we want to do, if that's true, and I'm going to say, hey, if that's true, we're going to do a capital B. Then if we want, we can have a default value. And so then after the last case, has to go after the last case, we can have a default command, so it's default colon. We don't have to have any variable or don't have any variable after it or value because it says, hey, I didn't match anything else. And what do we want to put in that case? Let's say we want to put not a choice. And that would be the basic structure of our case. We can have as many cases as we want. And what's going to happen when it executes? Well, in this case, I'm fixing this variable, and we'll change it to see how it works on the different values. Then it will go through, start the case. It will then compare the value of CH to A. If that matches, it does what's in here till it gets to the break. Then it exits the switch structure. Otherwise, it goes and tests against B. If B doesn't match, then it will do the default choice. So let's run this and see what happens. And we got a capital A. Well, if we think about what we did here, we set our value here to an A. We set our value to an A. Okay, let's go back here. And so it tested against the A. When it tested against the A, then that was true, so it came down, it output the A, then it sees the break, and so it exits out of the structure. So that's how the first one ran. That's what we sort of expected since we had put an A in. Let me change it to a B, and now when we run it, it should go and see out the B. Run it, and it did. So what it did for us this time was we set CH to B. It checked it against the first case. That was false. So it skips down and tested the second case. That was true. So it jumps in the structure. It executed the line that said C out B because that's the true. When it got to the break, it jumped down and exited the structure. So it left that switch structure at that point. Well, let's try it one more time with a value that's not here. Let's do a Z. And when we run it, we expected it to say not a choice, and it did. So it came down and came into the case, tested the A, that was false, then jumped down, tested the B case, that was false. So those were the only two cases. So since we had the default, it executed what was in the default. Now the default is optional. If it had not been there, it would have merely exited the switch structure. We'll look at some other options with the switch structure in the next video. Well, thank you for watching this Dan on Tech video. Please subscribe to this playlist so you don't miss future videos. Please check out and subscribe to our other Dan on Tech channel playlists.